Good morning. My name is Dr. Felice Cellini. I am blessed and grateful to be in recovery. This is our Sunday morning Why Wait for Recovery community meeting, and we're being recorded. We have to say that because we're in the state of Florida. Go.
Hi, my name's Haiti, and I'm so blessed and grateful to be here this morning. So we are with Why Wait for Recovery, and what is Why Wait for Recovery? It's a community of people who are learning how to live in recovery from addiction. I mean, basically, I'm an addict. And we are basically friends who are sharing this journey and our triumphs and our challenges as we live in the solution. So welcome. I am an emotional eater. I'm a compulsive overeater. I'm a binger. I'm a purger. I also had weight loss surgery, and I'm a drug addict in recovery, and that's the most important part of it that defines me.
I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic in recovery, so welcome everybody.
So we get together twice a week and we have these conversations and we learn from each other, because sometimes life shows up and it's really difficult to deal with the challenges. So if you want to join in on the conversation, we have people who join us in Davie, South Florida, or you can hop into our virtual waiting room from anywhere in the world that you have Wi-Fi, and it's a great time to do it now. You can actually, we did this.
So
This
proud
is
of the
cool.
sign,
I'm so
you guys.
proud of the sign.
Look,
So-
everybody could read it the correct
and
way,
it should
right?
be the correct way, okay? So if you go to our website and just click free meetings, which is sowhywait.net, and you can just hop into the conversation and come tell us what your experiences are.
So you guys, yesterday we had an intro to the workshop and it was amazing, and I want to thank everybody who participated, and I want to thank everybody for their part in my recovery. I really appreciate every one of you, so thanks so much for sharing yesterday, because it's how we learn the most, right? It's when we're in community and we're sharing with each other, and we have that strength of the community behind us. And actually, you know, any psychologist that writes about community is going to tell you that when people are working together for a common cause or a common good, everybody in that community actually is better and stays better. So thanks so much for being part of our community.
So the reason we actually do workshops is because we learn from other people's stories. You know, I learn something new at every single workshop that I attend and that I go to. I read books, I watch videos, I do so many things to learn, but the most learning I get is when another person who is sharing something from their heart touches my heart, and I can identify with what they're saying.
Yeah, and we're not affiliated with any of the other A groups, you guys. Good morning, everybody. And so we have our own workbook. I wrote a workbook about recovery that we work out of, and again, we do that for the betterment of our community, and so that we can learn how to step into and stay in recovery.
And when we define using or addiction, for many of us, we have different addictions. You know, we cross addict. I had weight loss surgery, but I've used cigarettes, I've used drugs, I've used people, I've used sex, I've used all different things to change how I feel. And at the end of the day, it wasn't the substance or the thing or the person that I was picking up. It really was, why was I doing what I was doing and thinking the way that I was, to act the way that I did, and then feel guilty and ashamed and demoralized through the whole process. And why wasn't I just happy being in the moment and enjoying the moment?
Yeah, and so we learn to live our life, and like Haiti said, our addiction is never about what we're picking up. It's always about why we're picking up and why we're feeling the way that we're feeling. And how do we learn to live in this world with acceptance, understand the difference between to have clear and cut boundaries, and understand the difference between acceptance and boundaries, and to learn to live today without fighting against things that I have no business fighting against, because the only thing that it does is make me unhappy.
And also, you know, when we've been doing things for so long, I was in addiction I really stepped into recovery at 52. I relapsed many times, but I really started getting it, and the obsession was lifted when I was 52 years old, and I understood the process. But it also took a level of faith, the faith that if I'd been thinking, and my best thinking had brought me to the point of really hurting myself and doing things that were detrimental and dangerous to me, that there had to be something better. I don't believe that I was put on this earth to be miserable and suffer the whole time that I was here. I really believe that, and I have faith that I have a greater purpose, and that being happy is as good an option as being miserable. And if I learn how to be happy and enjoy the moment, and I spent as much time focusing on that as I did in focusing on being miserable, maybe things would show up and play out a little bit differently.
Yeah, and actually they do. So in recovery, we learn how to get some happy. You know, we learn how to change spiritually. We learn how to look at things differently, and we learn how to get some happy. So welcome everybody. And so we're going to go around this morning. We'll have a little chat with anybody that wants to. We have kind of a full house today, so that makes me really happy as well. So instead of me calling people out, who wants to talk this morning? You could talk about faith, or you could talk about anything. You could talk about what you got out of the workshop. Yes, thank you, Bonnie.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I just want to talk about what I got out of the workshop, and that was being so reactivated. And sometimes I hate to get involved with being in meetings because of that reactivation, but I also felt like you guys were holding me when we left. But basically, I was thinking about food for the rest of the day. I was obsessed. I kept on wanting to get things. And,
So that's what you mean by reactivated, was
Yes.
that you wanted to use?
yes.
Awesome.
So, can
No, good.
I share a little bit about the conversation?
Sure.
Okay, so Bonnie calls me yesterday and she goes, I'm having massive cravings and I was really triggered by the workshop. So I had exactly the same reaction as you. I went, awesome. It means that you listened and you heard something different, because I know when I get triggered, it means that I don't want to deal with whatever it is that I just heard or the situation I'm in. And we had a whole conversation about that, how sometimes our triggers are the things that are our biggest learning opportunities, because I used so often to stay numb and be numb and avoid dealing with what I was dealing with. And when I get triggered or I get those cravings, those are those aha moments that maybe I've got a greater learning opportunity to go back and look at what it was.
So you felt like using. Did you use?
No, I didn't track my food, so I was getting sloppy. But by the end of the day, I was driving myself crazy. So I actually put all the food down that I ate, and it met within what I'm working with. So my mind was like bigger than my.
Oh, okay. And here's the thing, you guys. It's okay to feel like using. It's also okay to feel like using and not use.
That's scary.
So, you know, that's the reality of it. You're an addict. So it doesn't matter how many years I have clean. Do I still have times where I feel like using? Yeah, it's a feeling, you guys. It's not a fact. I feel like robbing a bank because I want to get a new car. It's a feeling. It don't mean I'm going to go grab a gun and walk into the bank. They're feelings. And so people, I don't even know if this is addicts, but people in general, you know, just because we have a feeling doesn't mean that we have to act on it. The thing is with the addiction is that our brain, anytime we're going through anything, you know, there were a lot of breakthroughs yesterday, and there were a lot of people that were feeling certain things, and you know, we go through these feelings where I'm feeling, you know, I don't feel perfectly comfortable in my skin right now. What do I do to change that? Because we're addicts. That's definitely our addict thing, right? So I'm feeling a little fearful. I'm feeling a little discontent. I'm feeling a little resentful at myself. I'm feeling a little, you know, well, since I'm living in the next 43 years anyway, you know, I'm feeling that, right? And so those things are going to happen, and we don't need to pick up. And we get through the second or the hour or the day or the next 53 years, and we don't pick up. And that's an accomplishment. But for addicts and active addiction, the longer we have clean, you guys, the longer that our brains are free from you know, our dopamine receptors are cleaned up, and the more that we're talking about and stepping into recovery, the easier that's going to get. But the fact that I used to say that all the time, you know, that anytime I was really talking about recovery, what the challenge was, and I said this to you guys yesterday, being inpatient in treatment would have been so much easier if I could have been high, you know, but I couldn't be high, right? Or I chose to stay in treatment and not be high. And so getting through any kind of change in emotion without changing our feelings and understanding that it's okay and that everything that's happening is for just right now. And so that happened yesterday. So my hope for you today is that you're going to feel better. The fact that you brought it up is amazing, and I'm really glad that you experienced that, even though it sucks. You know, Angela has a challenge with me because every time she's hysterical or going through something, I giggle. And she's like, you're laughing at me, and I'm not laughing. I'm so proud because you're going through something that you need to go through that you need to not use through, that's going to be some kind of breakthrough for you. And that's what recovery is about. You guys, if recovery was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? We talk about recovery not being for the people that want it, because everybody at some point wants it. We talk about recovery not being for the people who need it, because every single person in active addiction needs to be in recovery so they can live a happier life. It's for people that are willing to do the work and do whatever it takes, right? They say we only have to change one thing, and that one thing is everything. So who are willing to do the work to change everything so that we can be happy. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, that yesterday it was emotional, and that was something that triggered you, and that you didn't have to use. Yes,
I was
Andrew?
just gonna say, we have people up here saying they felt the same way too.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And I would love to say, just thank you so much for sharing that, because
Yeah.
that's really important. So for people who are just stepping in and have got no idea what recovery is, because it's a term we use because we are used to it and we know what it looks like. But for people who are new that are just tuning in, the scenario could have played out in another way. And the way that it could have played out, that it does for many people in active addiction, is start feeling uncomfortable, pick up the stuff that makes us feel terrible, the sugars, the starches, whatever the stuff is, use that to sedate ourselves, or use that to defer how we're feeling, or start shouting and being bitchy and using those behaviors that make us feel horrible in the inside. So we punish ourselves for feeling uncomfortable, so that we don't need to feel uncomfortable, because feeling that means that it's an unpleasant place to be. So what happens as that plays out, we start feeling worse, and then we start feeling guilty, and then we start beating ourselves up, and you can't do this, and those voices in the head start becoming denigrating, and they start putting us down, and it becomes a whole fest of why are you so bad, and why couldn't you do this, and it becomes that whole conversation, and we turn around and we've lost a day, or we've lost 2 days, or we've lost a week, and we've said things that we honestly didn't want to say or regretted saying afterwards. We created all other chaos around it, so that we were witness to all events that didn't actually even really affect us, or that we weren't part of. And it was really about that uncomfortability and being able to say, do you know what, wow, this really touched me in a profound way, and maybe there's a learning opportunity here. And sitting with that for a moment, because sitting in uncomfortability for me as an addict is something that has taken a lot of time and to learn, and I still have difficulties with it. Being still with myself is a work in progress. It's something I'm still working on. But picking up at the end of the day, no matter what it is, makes us feel worse. It doesn't make it any better. And that's where our thinking always took us, that was the best option to deal with the stress.
And so yesterday you reached out, and we know that is the best way to deal with whatever. And you know, you're saying what you're saying, and there are a whole lot of people shaking their head. So that wasn't, you know, just the way that you were feeling, it was the way that a lot of people were feeling. So again, thank you for sharing that. Remember too that chaos begets chaos. So with the words that Haiti were saying, were just said, all of those words basically means that once I step into chaos, I'm gonna step into chaos, right? And so when I don't take that step, when I say to myself, okay, this is a feeling, it's not a fact, it's a feeling. It's gonna go away at some point. You know, I'm gonna reach out, or I'm gonna go draw something, or I'm gonna listen to music, or, you know, I'm gonna, again, reach out to the community, which is the best thing to do, I believe, especially just so that you can say it out loud. For me, once I say it out loud, it doesn't make it to somebody else, it doesn't make it as devastating. And then to get through that day and understand, again, that it's just a feeling, right? And that it's okay for us to feel. You guys, we stay numb for so long, you know, we stay high for so long. We use whatever we're using to change our feelings for so long, and that's our default, right? That's our Google, right? We open up our computers in our brain, and our default is that this is what we're doing. If I'm feeling happy, I want to feel happier. If I'm feeling sad, I don't want to feel sad. If I'm feeling scared, well, that's something that I could really get into some chaos about. And I deserve it, so I'm going to treat myself because I had a bad day, you know, and that's awesome because you get to treat yourself to diabetes and guilt and shame and remorse and and demoralization, all that good stuff that we treat ourselves.
And then we do the same thing to our kids if we're parents. So I take the kid to the doctor and I go, when they give you a shot, I'll take you out for ice cream afterwards if you're a good boy or a good girl, or we'll go get this to eat to celebrate when you did well at school. So I take that addiction and all of a sudden I take them with, so I can justify why it's okay for me to keep picking up and keep using.
Yeah, and then hopefully our kids don't have that addiction. Okay, our kids don't have that addictive quality, and so hopefully we're not perpetuating that. And oftentimes we are. Yes, ma'am.
So I really enjoyed yesterday and being able to like empathize with a lot of people. However, I was disappointed that I didn't feel like we got a lot of tools to be able to deal with the things that very similarly that I encountered yesterday. Because yesterday I ate like horribly, you know.
So here's the thing. Yesterday, people spent $30 and hung out for 2 hours to listen to that. Am I an addict? Is this something that I need? Do I need to change? Because you know, a lot of people have no idea if they are, right? We have people that do believe, just like you do, zillions of people that believe, well, I'm just, you know, I'm fat and happy. I love that, you guys. I'm fat and happy. Okay. Or that, you know, I'm not a food addict. I just really love food, you know, and I'm only 150 pounds overweight because I eat a little too much. So we wanted to let you guys understand what the difference between, you know, some people overeat, right? And some people are addicts. They're emotional eaters, they're bingers or whatever. You just said very point blank. So I was going through some stuff emotionally and I eat, right? That's your go-to. So it sounds like you're pretty clear about the fact that your challenge is that you're an overeater or an emotional eater or a binger or anything like that, which is awesome. And so we wanted to make that clear. And then we did of course share, you know, the foods that are okay and not okay to eat that you got in your email. And then knowing that there's community and that you can reach out to your community and that we actually have regular 8-week workshops. So yesterday was a little bit of a glimpse so that you can understand if you're the person that needs to come to meetings or not, or chooses to come to meetings or not, or if there's stuff that you want to change. So thank you so much for being here yesterday.
And I also wanted to mention something. One of the things that we discussed when we were in the workshop yesterday was take telephone numbers. How many people from that you met yesterday that were going through similar things did you call or connect with when you started stressing and going through what you were going through? Because you knew every single person was here for the same reason. Did you call anyone?
No.
And that is so true for so many of us, because so many people come into this room and they sit and they edit why they shouldn't do something. So we're struggling and we need help, but we don't ask for it because we tell ourselves whatever the stories are that we tell ourselves in our head. And we come to these meetings every single week on Thursdays and on Sundays, and we sit and we don't say anything. Whereas the saying, when we start talking about it, is where the healing lies. So the minute we start saying, listen, I'm struggling, or this is difficult, or I don't know why I'm doing it, and someone goes, oh, I can relate, or I tried this, or whatever it looks like, and you get the feedback, it's out of us and it doesn't sit and fester inside us, because that is food for the committee that keeps hurting us.
Yeah, so thanks so much for sharing that. And it is true, you know, about reaching out and being a part of the community, which you're invited into. So use it. That's going to be the best tool that you have, is to be able to talk to somebody else, and anybody else would have been happy to speak with you. And again, we talked about this yesterday. Asking for help doesn't mean I'm weak. Doesn't mean that I'm weak. It just means that I want some help, right? I can't change the oil in my car, right? If I need to change the oil in my car, I gotta call somebody and say, change the oil in my car, right? I don't know how to do it. That's me asking for help. I don't consider that weak. If I'm having a challenge emotionally, why is it so hard to reach out? It's just a challenge. I'm just asking for some help.
Okay, I wanna jump in, because since I have stepped foot in here a week ago, I keep having contradictory thoughts.
Okay, that's good too. Mm-hmm.
Because when I first walked in here, I'm like, I'm not an addict, I still don't think I'm an addict, but you know, like addicts are for drugs or alcohol, you know, those are addicts,
Okay,
not
so
food. Like I still think that's kind of ridiculous. And then to like, okay, so then last night I go out to this little social thing, which I never do anything social, which reminded me of like what Liz was saying yesterday about not looking in the mirror and all that, and I just,
I haven't done anything social in like 20 years, no joke. And I just don't do it. So, but I did yesterday, right?
Mhm.
And then there's these cupcakes,
Uh-huh.
right? And then there's these little cupcakes. And then I start rationalizing. And I remember what you said yesterday, that you start coming up with all these reasons why you should. And I'm like, well, they're mini cupcakes. They're not like a whole cupcake. You know, and I'm like, and I've been really good. I haven't had anything, you know, since the surgery. And I'm thinking all this, and then I remember what you said, and I'm like, if I eat that fucking cupcake, then I am an addict. So then I don't like eat the cupcake. And then like now you're saying that it's the feeling. It's not whether you use, which I still, you know, use in a cupcake. That doesn't make they don't go together with me. You
Okay.
use drugs.
So
You don't
listen.
use a cupcake.
So listen. Okay. Okay. And when we talk too, you know, it's okay, and it's, you know, it's funny to kid around or whatever, but addiction is scary as fuck.
Yeah.
There's nothing funny about it. And so when I have to, it's not about what we're picking up. So I need for you to hear my words, Mamala. It's not about what we're picking up. It's about why we're picking up and about the struggle that we're having. So when I say it's about your feelings, it's not about the food, it doesn't mean that you can eat or use your drug of choice. That's not what that means. What it means is we're going to deal with what happens before. Again, if you're allergic to shrimp and you knew that if you ate the shrimp, you were going to go into anaphylaxis and die in front of your family and friends and your children or whatever, would you have to spend all of that time thinking about the shrimp? No, right? Because you know that it could kill you. You say, oh, shrimp, I better stay away from that shrimp. And you go on with your life. The fact that you need to have a conversation and you need to start rationalizing about it's a small cupcake, so it wasn't a big cupcake, and duh, but if I say this and she's gonna think this, and da da da, and you got all that chaos going on, first of all, that's part of the challenge. That's part of the challenge. And instead of being, it's like my diabetic patients who say, well, you know, I only ate the little cupcake. Oh, okay, so you'll kill yourself a little bit slower today. Okay, good choice, right? The choice is yours, right? The choice isn't mine. So here's the thing. It's about how you're feeling. You're angry, you know? And so it's about learning to get back to those things where, remember yesterday we talked about getting some happy. It's learning to get some happy and to feel better about ourselves and better about the way that we view the world, so that we're not so angry. We're not walking around with those fear-based challenges, right? Anger is one of them.
Because I guarantee you, like at that moment, I did look around and like everybody was having a pretty fucking good time.
You don't know what kind of
And
time
I-
they're having. You know
Well,
how
they
they're
looked like it. I
presenting.
was silent, like
Right.
staring at this cupcake. And then I also think it would have been pretty pathetic
Mm-hmm.
if I would have had to call somebody because I wanted a cupcake. I don't know. In my mind, it seems like a much better phone call to call because you want to take, you know, a shot of heroin or whatever they call it. Like that's a
I need
much
to say
better, like
something else.
important phone call in the
Okay,
realm
listen
of
to
things
me.
than a cupcake.
Listen to me. Why is it important that I make a phone call before I shoot up? Because I might
Because
die,
that's
right?
more important. Like that's, I don't know, that seems more important.
So remember, we talked yesterday about how our life is only the way that we view it.
I'd like to
Right?
cut in.
Yeah,
that
thank you.
Food has hurt my life as much as a heroin addict has hurt theirs.
Thank you. So thank you for sharing that. And perspective is perspective, right? And thanks for saying that. And again, it's not about the substance. So if I'm 150 pounds overweight and I need to have surgery to fix that, I'm not really sure where the disconnect is between. So what do we define addiction as? Well, I wake up this morning and I promise myself that I'm not going to do something. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning, or it's 12 o'clock noon, or it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I've made an excuse and I've done it anyway. And I go to bed feeling a little guilty, and I wake up feeling kind of ashamed and disgusted with myself and disgusted with the fact that I don't want to look in the mirror, and disgusted with the fact that I'm going to go spend 15 grand, or my insurance company is, so that I could go have a surgery because I can't control my behavior. What's the difference? Yes, go ahead.
So, when you speak, it brings back so many different memories. So the first thing for me with that label of addiction, I always saw addicts as bad people, I saw addicts as these drug fiends or these dope addicts, okay, that were bad people, and I didn't see myself as a bad person. And I've come to realize that drug addicts are sick people who are dealing with a disease. They are doing the best that they can. When they're in active addiction, we do bad stuff because we are not in control of what we're doing. But when we're in recovery, we start seeing the beauty of the person and the good person that's there, that's dealing with an illness, to working towards being healthier and happier. So when it comes to the food, because I'm very similar, I'm the person that when I go to a party, I'm cleaning up, I'm organizing, I'm hanging out on the wall, I'm not really socializing because I feel awkward. I always feel awkward in big social events. So I will keep busy, and it used to be I'd keep myself busy eating, and it was easy to talk to people while we were eating because you could have these short conversations. And then I realized something. 4 years ago, I blew out my colon. I'm a food addict, I'm a binger, I'm a purger. 4 years ago, I blew out my colon. I had 1.5 foot of my colon removed. I had septicemia and I nearly died, and that is because of my addiction. That didn't stop me. I lived with a colostomy bag for 3 months. I developed hernias, I was severely overweight, and that didn't stop me. I still gained another 80 pounds after that. You would think after that wake up of being totally incapacitated, not being able to get out of bed, my knees were killing me, my back was killing me, my hips were killing me. I was battling, I was out of breath when I went around the store. I couldn't keep up with my kids. I was miserable and unhappy and living in a dark room. I was wearing the same 3 things continually over and over and over again. My closet was as a 22 wide. Everything was the same thing. I hated shopping. I didn't want to see people unless I was doing the stuff that I was comfortable doing, which was either feeding them or eating with them. Beyond that, there was very little I really wanted to do. I then opted for bariatric surgery. The thing is, if I wasn't an addict, I wouldn't be in a position where I had to have weight loss surgery. For me, okay, besides a health issue, my eating and my behaviors and my thinking put me in that position that I opted for something that could be life-threatening for people. Not everyone makes it through bariatric surgery. It's a major, huge surgery. It's not something people do lightly. It's not that quick fix that everything's going to be roses and butterflies afterwards. I live with the side effects of bariatric surgery ever since having it. I mean, the reflux and all the other stuff and the decisions that I went and made. Yes, it's been a lifesaver on a lot of things, but there's also the other side. You know, we live in duality. For every one thing, we've got another effect that happens out of it. Having a look at where I started and how miserable I was when I opted to have that surgery, if I didn't change something, I would get exactly what I got. If I thought I was responsible for losing all that weight because my stomach was this big, because the doctor had taken 75% of my stomach out, and I thought that I was responsible and recovered because I was eating portions this big, and I could go back to doing exactly the same thing that put me in the position of needing surgery. Do you know how many people are having 3-4 revision surgeries to try and get back to where they were afterwards? So that is not, it's not the surgery itself, it's the reasons why all of a sudden we reach that point. Because if I still looking thin and doing this and living in a beautiful home and having great kids and living an amazing life didn't make me happy, I still felt empty on the inside. I'm my biggest problem. It's not the food and it's not the things and it's not the people, it's me, it's my thinking. Why is it that I keep putting myself in this position that I'm thinking that everything's going to be okay if I keep doing the same things over? When I realized that I was an addict, was actually a life-changing process for me, because there's certain foods that when I put in my body, I don't react the way my husband does. My husband is a normal eater. He will eat this, that, anything. He doesn't have an issue with food. He stops when he's full. He doesn't eat if he's not hungry. He doesn't think about the next meal when he's sitting at a meal. He doesn't feel like he has to finish the food on his plate. He doesn't feel like if he's having a bad day that he has to go eat something to celebrate or commiserate or whatever the story is. He doesn't have those obsessive thoughts. I do. I'm different. So when I put a substance in my body, no matter what it is, I react in a certain way and my head starts going crazy. And I start obsessing about it and I start thinking if I swap this for that, it will look like a cupcake, but it's made of black beans or whatever that crap is. I can't do that. My recovery for me is very black and white, because it's put me in a position of power. It's put me in a position where I get to make a choice every single day. I get to make a choice of the things that I put into my body. I get to make a choice of how I'm going to react to you by the things that you're doing. I get certain choices that empowers me. I'm not all of a sudden going with the wave or whatever chaos and stuff is happening in my life and justifying why it's okay to hurt myself. I don't want to be that person that my kids have to look after me at 70 years old because I cannot get out of bed. I don't want to be that dependent on other people because I put myself in a place where I've jeopardized my health because of my thinking, my actions. I want to do something different, and that was a choice that I made. And calling myself an addict was liberating because do you know what? It started the journey of the greatest journey of my life, which was getting to know me. Getting to have a relationship with me is something I never ever gifted myself. You know, that is something that I'm still learning, and it's unbelievable. It's scary as shit. It's frustrating. I've got no one else to hold responsible except me. And being an addict's not a bad thing.
So let's talk about being an addict. I'm a drug addict, alcoholic in recovery. I get up every morning and I help people every single day of my life. I wake up in the morning and I do my best to do my best. And I might be abrasive, but I'm a really good girl. And I'm kind and I'm caring and I'm considerate and I'm generous and I'm all those things. I have a PhD after my name. I'm a certified recovery support specialist. I'm a certified physician assistant. I have all of those things and I'm an addict in recovery. All of those things define me, as well as me being an addict in recovery. When you talk about, people who are shooting up and people who are, alcoholics, it's because you judge those people as bad. So you're gonna judge the word as bad. I'm not a bad person. I can promise you anybody that knows me will tell you that I'm not a bad person. It's not just what I'm saying. There are a lot of people in this room that I've helped immensely, right? And I'm an addict in recovery. Being an addict, addiction, you guys, it's a diagnosis, it's a medical diagnosis, right? Right? It's a it's in psych as well. It's a diagnosis. It means that my brain works differently than somebody else's brain does. My brain doesn't recognize, it's like I don't have an off switch. So if I have one shot of tequila, even though it's really little and it's in a really little glass and it's not a really big drink, so that's the difference between the cupcake and the mini cupcake. If I have one shot of tequila, my brain doesn't understand that that's enough. My brain says, wow, this is a good idea. Let's drink until we fall on the floor and forget. And then when I wake up in the morning tomorrow and I wake up and I throw up, my brain says, wow, that was a really good idea. Let's go ahead and do that again. And when I do it again and I wake up the next morning feeling demoralized and horrible about myself and guilty and ashamed, my brain says, wow, still feels like a good idea. I'm feeling demoralized and ashamed. So what I'll do is I'll pick up again and I'll use again because now I'm in pain. And I'm gonna get rid of the pain like that. And I've had a bad day and I deserve to have a drink. My brain doesn't have that off switch that normal people that can drink normally does. Your brain, if your brain had that off switch, you wouldn't have been 150 pounds overweight. You wouldn't have gone for a surgery that didn't have to happen if your brain just understood, hey, if I eat those certain things, those are bad for me, they're gonna make me sick. By the way, morbid obesity is also a medical diagnosis, right? So it's gonna put me in the morbidly obese category and stuff is gonna start happening. I'm gonna become diabetic and I'm gonna have fatty liver and my triglycerides are gonna be high and I'm gonna have a better chance of having a stroke and all of those great things that we get to look forward to. But it's the before that part. My brain doesn't understand what it's like to have one, because if it did, I'd be a normal weight, right? So that's part of it. So that's the physiological stuff that happens as far as addiction goes. And then the spiritual stuff, or the way that we look at the world, that's what we're gonna learn to change in recovery, so that we don't have to act out on behaviors that are harmful to us. I put my hand on the stove, I burn my hand, I take my hand off the stove. I don't wake up tomorrow morning and put my hand back on the stove. My brain understands that I've acted in a certain way and that behavior's hurt me. It burned my hand. But we wake up the next day and we do the same thing when we know that what we're doing is harmful. Why are we doing that? Being an addict in recovery is one of the things that defines me. It defines me as a person who's courageous and strong, who had a problem, who did her best, who's doing her best to do her best, who is overcoming, who is getting to define myself right now as somebody in recovery, as opposed to the addict piece of shit that other people look at me as. I'm not an addict piece of shit. I'm a woman in recovery. And that addiction also didn't define me as a piece of shit. It defined me as a person who had medical diagnosis about something that needed to get some help, right? Just like if I had any other medical diagnosis that needed to get some help. Now that I've got help, I get to sit here and reach out to you to see if I could help you as well, right? Like I've helped lots of other people. I'm an addict in recovery. That doesn't make me bad, man. That makes me awesome. Just saying. Yes.
I know a lot has already been said, but I want to add one thing. The way you described the situation with the cupcake is no different than somebody would describe their situation with the heroin needle or a pill or something like that. And I just want to say that, in the beginning, I didn't think I was an addict either, and I'm only a food addict, none of the other stuff. And realizing that I was no different really helped me find that clarity and get well. Before that, nothing else worked for me, and so I just want to say to you that it's something that you should definitely be open-minded to, and because we're not as different as we think we are in the beginning.
And if there's no challenge, there's nothing to fix. So if you feel like you don't need to fix anything, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to let you know that, listen, I was drinking way longer than, you know how many people told me, you need to stop drinking. Really? Like I didn't know that. Really? Like I'm on the floor, you need to stop drinking. Oh, thanks for the reminder. I knew it, right? But I wasn't capable of doing it at that time. Nor did I really want to take a look at the fact that, yeah, you know what? Okay, so my kid died. I had a 17-year-old that died. You drink too. That was my excuse, right? So that I didn't have to deal with the things that were going on, not just in the world, but the stuff that was going on inside of me, so that I didn't have to deal with that. And even being able to say it out loud and actually doing that connection from my brain to my heart, right, into my soul, saying, this doesn't have to be the way my story's gonna end. I don't have to be the person that dies as an addict in active addiction, right? I don't need to be that person. I can learn how not to be, and then I could learn to deal with the world and get some happy, so that I'm not sad and scared and resentful and angry, so that I'm not those things, right? So that I can live more happily ever after. Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much freaked out from yesterday too.
So it was a great workshop.
Yeah, it was. Everybody's so emotional. Like, that's awesome.
I know, because I left, I was like, yeah, all right. But then last night it was, and I'm pretty secure that I'm an addict and have been for a long time. I can't stop eating food. Clearly, if I can't stop something, then that's an addiction. But last night I was like, oh yeah, I'm not an addict. I don't even know why I need to go there tomorrow. And then I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna connect to the community. That was my tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and get on Facebook instead of Facebooking my friends. I'm gonna actually Facebook the things I found it. And then I had to go and answer the questions. 3 questions to the administrator, one of which was, how far would you go?
What are you willing to do?
For recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I typed that and erased it about 10 times. Until I finally, because I think one thing about these groups is that you have to be honest. You can't, and I know I'm not honest all the time, and I'm manipulative and a lot of other things, but I have to be as honest as I can be at the moment. So I very carefully typed just about anything and hit go as quickly as I could, because I'm not sure I'm in. I'm not sure I'm in to stop drinking socially. I'm not sure I'm into stop eating cakes or cupcakes or bread or sugar or I don't know if I'm in for that or not or
Why?
Because it's scary. It's all scary.
And how scary is being an active addiction?
Not so scary.
There's this tightrope that I've been walking my entire life of, I get, I justify it. I justify the fact that I'm not 150 pounds overweight, only 100 pounds overweight, or not quite 60 pounds overweight. I am very social. I'm overly social. If you knew me, you wouldn't think I was an isolator. But, oh yeah, I totally am. I know that myself. But it's something that I cure the symptoms of, maybe, right?
On the outside, yeah.
Right, on the outside, I'm pretty, in my world, I think I'm pretty good.
And so I read yesterday that part, remember I read before we left, and I was shaking when I read it. There are 5 words that are part of every addict's vernacular. And I'm gonna, please remind me to post that today. And they say this is the point that every addict gets to. The thought of living our life with our addiction is horrible, right? Living our life in addiction. But the thought of living our life without our addiction is even worse. Because then what the fuck do I do now? What do I do now? This is the behavior that I'm used to. What do I do now? And I'm gonna let you know that when we get to change our perspective, it's what we get to do now, not what am I gonna do now, right? And it's about learning to live a life and being happy without having to think about using a substance. Where am I gonna go and what am I gonna do and who's gonna see me and who's gonna judge me and why are they gonna judge me and who cares and this and that and I shouldn't even have to be here and I shouldn't have to be listening. All that stuff that goes on in our heads when we're in active addiction, that ain't happening when we're not in active addiction. That we get.
I've never known that.
Right.
I think a lot of people in this room, we kids with our addictions, so.
Absolutely.
I have no idea what that feels like. And I don't know what normal people, I can't imagine how your husband feels about food and not thinking about it.
Of course we can.
24/7, everything I do is these people in my head.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, in addiction
It's scary.
brand. Yeah.
It's like I'm like that person.
So actually
And I
the
know I
name of this
shouldn't.
session is Goodbye to My BFF, because that's how many of us view our foods and the substances, and it's the toughest thing to actually think of letting go, and that's the reservations that many of us hold. And I've never been normal. I've always been an addict my whole life. I've always been that person that when I look good, you'll see me. I'm the brilliant socialite. You will see like a side of me that is always perfect, great to entertain, great to be around, but on the inside, I was dying. I was empty, I was hollow, I was so unhappy, and living up to other people's standards or what I thought it was killing me.
Looking good on the outside, man, right? Insides don't match our outsides. We look great on the outside. We're doing what you expect me to do. My ego feels fabulous about my life, and I'm scared and alone and empty inside. Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Can we hear from anybody up there? Or Jan, you want to share? Or anybody else want to share? You're like, I'm scared to
Jess.
say nothing.
Jen says she'll share, I'll share.
Okay, I'll get to Jess.
So, okay. So I don't know if I can share, but I was in treatment twice. And the first time I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and then when I get out of here, I'm not. I'm gonna kind of tweak it, do my own thing.
We all do that in treatment, by the way.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, so I'll leave the sugar, but I'm not leaving the bread, like at all. And then, so then that turned into me having to come back because I wanted to come. So like, that's what it is. Like, it got to the point where like, okay, I lost all this weight, and then here we go right back up, and here we go right. Like, the constant yo-yoing is what told me that like, I have a bigger problem, and it's not the food. Like, it's not the food. Of course, it is the food.
Well,
But
that's
it's
the
not,
end
like,
result,
there's
correct.
Something else. And so, that's that. And so my second time, like, now there's like, okay, so you can have these things, and you can stay away from the sugar, and I'm like, I've been good. Like, I've been really good. And then lately, all of a sudden, now I'm noticing, like, and yesterday, I'll even just be transparent. Like, yesterday, I left here, and I was like, yeah, I left, walking down the stairs, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go eat.
I'm gonna go eat more than I usually would. And then I was like, okay, so even as I was saying goodbye to her, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get in my car, I'm gonna go meet up with my friend, and we're gonna kind of eat. And I'm gonna eat abstinent foods, but they're gonna be a little bit more than I normally would. Like, I had a plan. I left here with a plan. And the fact that I had a plan tells me that, like, okay, you have an issue. Like, the fact that, like, all that came up for me, like, it continues to tell me that. And so, and yeah, and I overate. I 100% overate because, for me. And so I don't know why I'm sharing that. Like, I don't know, like, that's all in my head, that's what's twirling around my head, but, like, I definitely left, and then last night, something happened, and I was, like, trying to remember the stuff that was said, and like, the battling of that, like, the constant battling tells me, it just continues to tell me that there's something more, because if it were just, like, if you were to tell me right now that, sorry, I'm, like, going on, I'm awesome, okay,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, my head's all over the place, but it's like, it's just the constant reminder of like, what else needs to change in my life, like what else, and it's not, and the word addict to me doesn't bother me because I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that everybody is an addict or something, like it could just be my belief and I could be wrong. I haven't met somebody that isn't addicted to something.
My son says the same thing, by the way. Yeah.
So whether it's attention, social media, Facebook, food, going out, being the center of attention, whatever, everybody's addicted to something. That's just my perspective. So for me, it's food. And for me, it's like, okay, if I have the food in front of me and I focus more on that than the person sitting across from me at the restaurant, that tells me that, like, this is more important.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Perfect. That was
So awesome.
perfect.
That was-
So right, that's the truth. So if I have to focus more on the food, which everybody did yesterday because everybody wanted to use yesterday, if I have to focus more on the food than I do on the person that I'm sitting next to, right? We talk about living in the moment. Where were you living, man? Right? Where are you living when that happens? There are a bunch of people that did reach out yesterday, and good job, you guys, for reaching out to people in the community. And I don't know, like, my hope for you is that when you did reach out, that it did decrease, right? A little bit, decrease a little bit of what you were feeling. Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to just say something. What you just shared, and you said, I don't know why I'm sharing it, is the stuff that we all need to share, because even no matter how insignificant we think it is, it's the stuff we all think about, and the minute it's out of us, it loses that power. When it's sitting in us, it's just going, it like reverberates in my brain and keeps going round and round and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the stuff. There's nothing more important or less important. It's all just as important.
You know, yesterday, hi Susan, best mom ever. Yesterday, we went back to my house, Angeli and I, and Susan said to Angeli, you know, what was your aha moment yesterday? And we talked about being in a room with other people that were struggling and were scared, and how we forget once we're in recovery what it feels like to be there, and that we can't ever forget what it feels like to be there. Because that's exactly, I sat exactly where you're sitting. I sat in that chair. I had Martha. I sat like this too. I sat there and cried. I sat in meetings and said, everybody is full of shit and nobody knows what I'm going through. And if anybody was in me, in my soul, they'd use too. And I don't know what they expect of me. And they're asking the impossible. I sat there too. Probably longer than a lot of other people did. Probably harmed myself maybe a little bit more than other people did. But I sat there, and I'm gonna tell you guys that are struggling with calling themselves an addict, which means that they're not willing to change, sitting in this seat right now feels a whole lot better than it did sitting in that seat. It took a whole lot of work and a whole lot of tears and a whole lot of screaming, and for me, a whole lot of money to get to sit in this chair and to say, good for you that you're here and you're showing up. That means that you are willing to make some kind of change. Maybe you're not willing to make that change today. And I'm gonna let you know that recovery doesn't happen overnight. And in the beginning especially, it's a big struggle. And once you become abstinent, your life sucks. And that's just the way it is. Because now I'm abstinent and I'm pissed off And I chose not to use today, and I hate everybody on the planet because of it. And so going through that is something every single one of us goes through. That just makes the beginning of, the person of someone who's in active addiction, who chooses to be abstinent so that we could clean up the brain, so that we could pay attention, so that we could do whatever it takes to get from that seat to the seat of somebody who's talking about their recovery. The person who understands that the world is happening and accepts that the majority of the time. Yes?
I just feel like no sweets and no starches is just so extreme. Like, why is it not like, I feel like that's not a focus on healthy eating,
Your thinking is not healthy. It's your thinking that's not healthy. Again, I'm allergic to shrimp. Every time I eat a shrimp, I have anaphylaxis and somebody has to call 911. And now I'm gonna have a whole conversation about why I don't think it's fair that I can't eat shrimp. It is what it is. Factually, the way that your brain or an addict's brain responds to starches and sweets, it's a physiological fact. There's really no argument. If you choose to do what you're doing, that's your choice, Mamala. That's up to you. If you choose to continue behavior that's gonna hurt you, again, your brain doesn't understand that I could have 2 Oreos or you wouldn't be sitting here. I don't know if I've ever eaten more than 2 or 3 cookies in my entire life at one sitting. Now, I could go for 10 days without eating, no problem. No problem. That's my favorite addiction is anorexia, because then you get really skinny. But anyway, my brain understands that there's no such thing as more than 3 cookies at a sitting. Your brain obviously doesn't, right? The person that's 100 pounds overweight, there's some kind of disconnect between this is healthy and this isn't. And it doesn't work for us. So remember, you're the alcoholic that's saying, I think that it's really upset. What am I gonna do? New Year's Eve, I'm not gonna have a glass of champagne? If I knew what a glass of champagne on New Year's Eve looked like, I wouldn't have to call myself an alcoholic, right? My brain doesn't know what that looks like.
So, in the beginning, I viewed recovery as a diet. That's where my brain was sitting, in this diet brain, I'm going to punish myself and I'm not going to have this stuff and I'm going to feel terrible because I'm not having this stuff. When I started thinking about it, and the more, because I've been clean food-wise in terms of the starches, and because I've relapsed. Okay, so for me, I made this distinction for learning here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not
Just
how
what
I my
cracks
clean
me
up.
up, right?
I know, but it's true.
Not
So
the police
the last time I had a starch or the sugar, the sweets, was on February the 17th, 2016. Okay, was the last time. And the thing is, why are those few things so important when we've got so many millions of different choices besides the food stuff, the stuff that we can do? Why are those, like the thought of giving up chocolates and the stuff became insurmountable. The thought of never eating another dessert in my life became something that was like the biggest issue in my life, rather than I eat amazing food. Every single day I eat delicious, awesome food. The food is there to nourish me. It's not there to get me high. And it's not even the question of the food itself.
No,
it's
not.
the feelings afterwards. I can think clearly. I'm not swollen. My joints are great. Okay, I can sit down and enjoy an amazing meal with you, and I don't care what you're eating because it doesn't affect me. You got the choice to be able to do it. Though we make that whole world, and when I make that whole world about those 3 things, that's my addiction speaking, because my addiction speaks to me in my own voice. My addiction wants me to keep using. I want to smoke pot every single day. I want to smoke cigarettes every single day. I would love to do all those other things if I listen to my head. But if I just pick up once, it doesn't just happen for 5 minutes. I've done the research. I know what it looks like. I know what it looks like after I binge and I purge, and I know that guilt and I know that shame and I know all those other feelings that come with a piece of chocolate. For me, it's not a piece of chocolate. For me, it is like a sentence to calamity and a sentence of beating myself up and demoralization, and it becomes that obsession, and then that's all I'm thinking about, and why can't I get more, and how do I get more, and it becomes all those conversations. And you know what? I've lost a month, and I've lost most of his life because I wasn't present. And I don't have photographs of me, and it's not about the food.
Right, it's not about the food. So even the you know, at the end, it's never going to be about the food. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why is it that I feel the need to change the way that I'm feeling with something? Because that's what you're doing. Otherwise, you'd have a cookie because you felt like having a sweet. You wouldn't have 63 cookies, right? And you wouldn't be sitting in a room with a bunch of other people trying to figure out if you're an addict or not. Because there's a good chance if you're here, you guys, you're an addict. There's a real good chance that the 4,000 people that are going to watch this today are addicts. Or they'd be watching reruns of whatever.
It's 9:30 on a Sunday morning. I'd be sleeping. You
Yeah,
know?
fair enough. And so it's about getting some happy. So we're talking about, I would rather eat a little cupcake than be happy. This is the takeaway for today. I want you guys to think about it. How happy does that little cupcake make you?
I didn't eat them.
I know that you didn't. I know that you didn't. But how happy does that cupcake make you? And how unhappy are you right now? Why do we sit in a meeting and learn how to rethink the way that we're living? Because we're not happy. Because if we were happy, the mall opens soon. We'd be shopping, right? You know, we'd be at the beach. It's Florida. It's beautiful. We'd be doing all these other things. I'd be hugging my grandkid right now, you know, instead of sitting here talking about addiction and recovery. You guys, recovery is the best thing that I ever did in my life because recovery allows me to have a life. It allows me to be present in my own life. It allows me to be present for my family and for my kids and for my grandkids. It allows me to be present for my patients. It allows me to step out of here and stop worrying about what I'm going to eat or drink next, and allows me to be present and allows me to be of service, because the entire world and everything that's going on in it ain't about me. I don't have to spend the next 16 hours thinking about whether I'm going to have a drink or not, because that's 16 hours that I could have been a whole lot of those hours in service.
And it's taught me how to be honest. So I don't need to lie to the person at the drive-thru and tell them how I'm getting this for my kid, and then telling you how I never ate the whole day and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and having those conversations with the checkout lady while I'm getting all the stuff to binge on because, do you know what, I just justified. And all that crazy, it takes it away, because all of a sudden it doesn't matter, because I can think clearly and I can be in the moment and I can enjoy the moment, and it gives me clarity and it gives me choices, and it's different. It's amazing.
And you
the
don't
biggest gift, and the biggest gift is it's given me. I've learned about me. I'm establishing a relationship with me. I can have intimate relationships with people that has got nothing to do with sex. It's
Or
got to
food,
do or food.
drugs.
It can be those relationships that are unbelievable relationships. I've had some of the best, and I've found some of the best relationships of my life in recovery. My true friends sit in recovery. We practice a program of honesty. I can turn around and tell them anything and they love me anyway. They're not judging me. I can tell them all the crazy shit that goes through my head, and they'll go, actually, that happened to me last week.
Yesterday, yeah, I felt exactly like that. Yeah, and when we talk about that honesty, you guys, the first person that we need to get honest with is us. And for me, that honesty is being able to say, I have a problem. I got a problem, and if I know that I have a problem, then I know that there's some help on the horizon somewhere, right? My hope for you is if you don't get it here, baby, get it somewhere.
The thing, I'm like, the fact that it bothers me so much is like, okay, there's something there. You know, it's kind of like what you were saying, you know, like, if it weren't a problem for you, then you would just be like, okay, no more sweets,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And you know, the beauty is we have choices. So if it isn't, try it. If it isn't working, go back to what you were doing before. I mean, no one's holding a gun to our head or making us do anything. These are choices and decisions we make on our own.
Question?
No? Okay.
We are actually almost running out of time. So there was a challenge, and the challenge for this week, can you read it?
Go ahead and read.
Okay, so for Lisa's challenge for this week is to sign up for the workshop.
Okay, well, that's Katie's challenge for me to say as a challenge, because that wasn't my challenge. So
Yeah.
since we're honest,
Yeah.
sign up for the workshop, you guys. or don't sign up for the workshop. But if you're willing to do whatever it takes to make some changes, then perhaps you want to do whatever it takes to make some changes. So just some more food for thought.
Well, actually, the workshop's on, I thought you'd give some more information. The workshop is on October the 20th.
I don't even know when it is. I just show up.
So the next workshop that's starting is our intensive 7-week program. It is using the workbook that Felice wrote. It's the 20th of October. It is intensive. It's on a Saturday morning. It's only for people who are really willing to do the work, because there is homework and there's work to be done.
And it's hard.
And it's hard. It's not
hard.
easy.
It's hard work.
Right, and the more you put in, the more you get out of it.
Yeah.
We are also going to have another one day, because it was a really good workshop yesterday. For everyone who got triggered, great workshop.
Yay.
Um,
And you know what? When we're talking about, I don't think I'm an addict, and I think I should eat sweets. And by the way, I listened to some people talk for 2 hours, and so I wanted to kill myself and eat everything in my closet. But I don't think I'm an addict, right? But I don't think I have a problem, so it's all good. I think you girls are crazy.
And we are.
Okay.
I am. But I'm okay with it. So we meet up again on Thursday at 7 p.m. You can either join us here in our room, which is awesome to see your faces, or join us in our virtual waiting room, which is online. And I just want to say hi to our friends in Ezra and our friends in London. And we have people from all around the world that really hop in. And also, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to Angelique, to Ahmed, to Gary. Thank you for your service, for helping set this meeting up, and for helping with all the stuff that you do.
I'm so blessed and so grateful for every one of you. You guys were big time in my gratitude list last night. Thank you for sharing me your courage and your honesty and your scared. And thanks for showing up. My name is Dr. Felice Cellini. This was our Wednesday morning Why Wait for Recovery Sunday morning community meeting.
And if you missed some of the meeting, it's on YouTube, Why Wait for Recovery. And we're at the West, it's an awesome sign. So we're at West Broward Club, hop on down, see you Thursday night. I absolutely love you, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Peace out.
Everyone.
Recovery is awesome.